what is the frame of the message? Would that frame shift if you had a wider variety of voices from historically marginalized groups helping to frame and shape that message? Another thing we should always think about, and this is really, I think this is a very useful thing for thinking about how political coverage plays out, in particular related to women and people of color in political coverage. What is the text of the message versus what is the subtext? So, if a piece about AOC and her fancy suits or whatever existed in a bubble, and we didn't have this larger diminishing narrative about women politicians as being only relevant for their looks or their clothing or their marital or not marital status, et cetera, their motherhood or not parenthood status, et cetera. If it existed in a bubble, then it would just be, the text would be the subtext. Here's this person, she has interesting style. Let's talk about her style, right? But the subtext, it doesn't exist in a bubble. So the text is, we're doing a story on how much money AOC spent on her suit or how pretty AOC is, right? The subtext is, we shouldn't take this woman seriously. She's too pretty. She should be, a starlet, not a politician. We shouldn't take this woman too seriously because how can she care about public policy if she spends so much money? How can she really care about economic public policy if she spends so much money on a suit, right? And then the subtext even more so around race, around gender, around class, all the initial dismissing of her because she had been a bartender, right? The text was, is she, is she flighty because she was a bartender? The subtext is, working class people don't belong in politics. Working class people are not intellectual. Working class people shouldn't get to decide what happens with legislation that affects working class people, right? So thinking about text versus subtext, right? That's a really important set of media literacy skills right there. And then also, following the money.
That's always my number one thing. If I'm wondering what's going on with an issue, I think, well, who's profiting? And that leads me right to the bad guy.
Right.
The end.
Exactly.